On this chart, a daily income of 90 rupees barely buys plain rice. Next to it, an astronomical spike to 375,000 rupees. The contrast is absurd. Bimla secured this entire sum in a single afternoon, bypassing decades of labor. That person is Bimla. She's an elderly widow living entirely alone, with no children to support her in her old age. Her daily reality is harsh. To secure her very next meal, she is forced to wade out into the water every single day, performing heavy manual labor to catch whatever small fish she can. If she doesn't cast her net, she doesn't eat. Bimla's situation provides a clear look at the microeconomics of sudden wealth. By tracking this transition, we can see exactly what happens when a black swan event hits a worker in the unorganized sector. To understand the economic leap, we first have to map Bimla's baseline. Her livelihood is strictly confined to the shallow coastal waters. This creates an immediate biological barrier.
High-value, heavy fish reside in deeper, turbulent waters. Because of her advanced age and declining physical strength, Bimla cannot access those depths. She is physically locked out of the premium market. This flowchart illustrates a subsistence trap. Restricted to shallow waters, she yields a low-value catch, providing zero surplus capital. With zero capital, she cannot buy better equipment, forcing her right back into the shallow waters the next day. This lack of physical capability translates directly to a lack of market leverage. At the local market, buyers offer lower prices for her small fish, knowing she has few alternatives. The pressure reaches a breaking point when a buyer offers her a flat 90 rupees for her entire day's work. With no other options, she accepts the predatory offer just to afford plain rice for the night. When physical limitations restrict output in an unorganized market, the system practically guarantees exploitation. The next morning, Bimla returns to the only place she can work, the shallow waters. But instead of pulling up a handful of tiny fish, her net suddenly jerks. The weight is immense, nearly pulling her under. Trapped inside the mesh is an incredibly massive, unidentified fish fighting wildly against the restraints. Statistically, this is a massive outlier. A fish of this size migrating into a shallow water trap contradicts normal expectations for this environment. We can visualize this using a scatter plot. Down here is the historical data, the expected low-value daily catches. Up here is Bimla's massive catch. In economics, this isolated high-impact outlier is called a black swan event. It defies historical data and contradicts statistical expectations. But when a black swan event lands in the lap of someone living on the margins, the primary challenge immediately shifts from acquiring the asset to protecting it. Bimla faces an immediate crisis.
The catch is so heavy she cannot haul it ashore alone. She is forced to solicit help from a younger local man named Harya. It is a necessary calculation, but a risky one. The risk materializes immediately. Harya pulls the net in, recognizes the intrinsic value of what's inside, and attempts to flee with the prize. This is a clear example of criminal vulnerability. When sudden fortune strikes an unprotected individual, it acts as a magnet for opportunistic exploitation. Bimla's fortune is only saved by an unpredictable intervention. A local street dog chases Harya down, forcing him to drop the catch. With the fish secured, a local market worker inspects it. He identifies it not as a typical catch, but as a rare, highly sought-after non-native foreign species. This specific biological classification marks the fish as a highly liquid, premium prize commodity rather than mere local sustenance. The location shifts from the local market to an organized, high-stakes auction house. In this arena, competitive demand from professional buyers replaces the seller's personal desperation as the primary mechanism for setting the price. Watch this digital counter. The bidding starts at 75,000 rupees. Within moments, aggressive buyers push it to 300,000, and the number keeps climbing. The auction finally closes at a total of 375,000 rupees. Notice that in this environment, Bimla's personal social vulnerabilities were entirely irrelevant to the final price. The market was focused purely on the scarcity of the commodity. Bimla walks away with the full payout. Her daily struggle to afford basic sustenance has come to an end. After years of pulling up empty nets, the tactile reality of holding this wealth is finally in her hands. This outcome points back to the unpredictable nature of the ocean.
It operates as a chaotic equalizer, entirely indifferent to the rigid structures of poverty on the shore.
The daily grind of the unorganized sector is structured to keep the vulnerable trapped, but an anomalous event of this scale can occasionally